Good morning. Welcome back to GP Outdoors. And welcome back to my part 3 of the series, Getting Winter Ready. You'll remember in the first part, I installed my hydraulic angling kit on my RB1672 rear blade, got her all set up, tested it works, but I need to make some adjustments to those hoses. In part 2, you'll remember I did a dry run hookup and installation of my new K64 blower, found out a few things, had a couple of hiccups as well, need to change my couplers. And today, I'm going to continue getting this rest of this lot ready, do a few more things because we're forecasted for snow this weekend. However, on the first 2 parts of this Getting Winter Ready series, I made a big mistake. I used this Teflon tape on certain fittings that it should not be used on. I didn't know, but thankfully and very gratefully, I have a lot of subscribers who reached out to me in a number of different ways to explain the different types of fittings you may encounter on your new tractor, and when you're allowed to use this Teflon tape and when you should never use this tape. I hope you'll stick around. Cheers. So let's begin today by correcting the mistakes I made in part 1 and part 2. I was always under the impression that it was always okay to use Teflon tape, this white Teflon tape, on all of your threading, on any of your fittings or couplers or hydraulic adapters on any of the hoses on your tractor. I quickly found out from some wonderful feedback from a lot of you good folks that that in fact is not the case. Not only did some of you help me out through the comments, but I had a couple of subscribers that went above and beyond and sent me pictures by email as well as references to very credible websites on hydraulic fittings and hydraulic equipment. I heard from guys that work with pipeline companies, aeronautic mechanics, heavy equipment mechanics, hydraulic mechanics, and in fact, a tractor mechanic. After receiving that information, doing some research on the internet, I finished it all off by dropping into my local Kubota dealer and I talked to Jim. Jim's been around a long time and he confirmed what these good folks were telling me. Here's what I've understood. So generally speaking, from my understanding, as you work to operate and maintain your tractor, you're going to run into 3 different types of fittings or adapters or couplers or hydraulic connections or connectors, for lack of a better word. The first one, which you saw me encounter when I was putting in my hydraulic angle kit, is what they call a JIC fitting. And that's a fitting where you'll see there's a 37-degree cone, they call it, basically a beveled end on one end or both ends of that connector if you happen to have it. And the hose or the fitting to which it connects into has a corresponding inverted cone. On those fittings, you are never, ever to put tape of any kind or thread seal on those fittings. The second type you're going to run into, which you also saw in the hydraulic angle kit, is one in which you've got the threading and there's a rubber O-ring either on the inside, which I'll show you here, of the fitting, or in the case where you saw in the hydraulic angle kit, you'll notice that the threading was a male connection and the O-ring was at the top of it, right beside a slip nut. Also, not recommended to put Teflon tape or thread seal or anything else on that fitting. Apparently the O-ring will create the seal once you've squished it down. The last type, which I believe is called an NPTF fitting or connector, is just kind of the basic ones that you see, similar to this. It's threaded, and of course the female is threaded similarly, and it's kind of just a flat end, no flare, no rubber O-ring. They just, regardless of what the rest of the connector looks like, that's what the end looks like. These ones, it is recommended to use either thread seal or white Teflon tape, not blue and not pink. When you put tape on it, you're supposed to go down 1 or 2 threads before you start it to make sure it's clear of this end, because apparently it's very bad if any pieces of that tape get into your hydraulic system, and you wrap clockwise. That's what I've learned. We're going to fix what I did in the last 2 videos today. And also, as I mentioned, I've got angle fittings for the hoses on my hydraulic angle kit so that it comes out of my remotes and goes down below my quick hitch now. And I believe I now have the right size couplers for the chute directional on my snowblower. So I'm going to swap those out. And then we've got some other things to do around the property before the next rainfall. Let's get her done. Okay, we're all good to go. Also wanted to thank one of my subscribers, or a few of you had mentioned, in order to mark my hoses for future, pick up some of these colored cable ties, and I did. Thank you so much. and I'll mark my hoses once I get it all set up for good. And the last thing I might suggest, I always carry spare shear pins in the tractor, as well as a socket and the proper wrench. Nothing worse than being half a mile down that driveway and blowing a shear pin and having to walk all the way back in the snow to find them.
I don't know why, but I am terribly uncoordinated. I am so bad at bucketing gravel. I have a bucket level indicator now, so I've been using that, so I think I get a little bit better at my approach angle, but I'll get it one day, I'm sure. It's got to come sooner or later. Boy, oh boy. Take a look at this. Let me turn you around. Hopefully you folks are seeing this. Those are moose tracks. I get them through here all the time. And obviously looks like he was running at a bit of a pace there, or she was. Probably similar to yourselves, I kind of have the same routine or practice every fall. As we get into that last few weeks before the snow, I start keeping a much more closer eye on the driveway. Start picking up big branches or limbs that have fallen on the side. Obviously I try to clear out as many leaves as I can, and hey, this year, it was a pleasure. I got them all out, and I'm going to take one more run just when we get that first snowfall. The reason why I'm heading down the driveway with a bucket of gravel, and I'll probably need one or more, two more, is because usually I start to find some of those rocks or boulders that are sticking up out of the ground to the surface. And those, of course, will play havoc with your snowblower. The reason I haven't removed them is most likely they're part of a larger rock shelf or they're just too big. So what I need to do is cover them. Boulders that kind of look like this. I know what a few of you are thinking, other than the fact that I'm terrible using that bucket. You're probably asking me why I'm not using the grapple to do all this. Lickety split, perfect implement for doing the job, picking up those boulders and the logs as I go down the driveway, but after 3 years of trying to learn how to operate my tractors, I very seldom ever use the bucket, which is why I'm so bad at it. Grapple works great for all of those things, but if I don't make a concerted effort to keep using the bucket and trying to use it and learn how to use it, I'm never going to figure it out. That's why I'm using the bucket. As the ground begins to freeze in the winter, especially early winter, you're going to find that those rocks that are sticking up now are going to push up even higher. And that's what you usually end up catching on the lip of the snowblower. So I need to cover them because I didn't pull them out. stuff like this big boulder here and the one that's just beyond you, this is what I'm talking about. You got to clear these out, because once we get snow in, the only way I'm going to find this is when it catches the front of my snowblower and ends up in my auger. It's a big one, and as you can see, it's right along the edge of the driveway. Murphy's Law, eh? I didn't want to show you any more bad buckets, so I just went ahead and started bucketing without it, and sure enough, now it works. I'm 1 for 3. That's about my average. Good bucket.
folks probably remember, I have a big rock shelf that sticks up out here, and over the last number of years since I got the tractor, whenever I've got some extra gravel at the end, just before the winter, I just keep building it up, and it's actually, after a few years now, it's starting to cover up really nice. If I don't get it covered and it starts to bear, then I start to get those jagged rocks sticking out, and of course, once again, not a friend to the snowblower. Whatever you do, don't tell Andrew how close I came to his machine. We'll just kick this out of the way here. Anyways, driveway's ready. Got the driveway a couple of feet on either side of the shoulder, cleared of any limbs and rocks and boulders. Covered up, did a few repairs as you saw today. And I definitely think if this is the first time you're using a snowblower on your tractor, it's definitely worth the time to go up and down that driveway, give it a good once over, make sure that any jagged rocks that are sticking out, that you've smoothed them over with gravel or at least repaired and packed around them. The rocks that are coming out that are really smooth, you don't have to worry about those because the skid shoes will float over those just fine. It's those ones that are kind of jagged and they're sticking up a few inches and they've got kind of a flat side to them. Your snowblower is not going to like that. And, you know, although I carry shear pins, I'd much rather not have to get out in negative 30 degrees to change one. So thanks for sticking around today. If you like the channel, please click subscribe, hit the like button, and if you want to know when I'm posting videos, just click that little bell. Have a wonderful and safe week with your families. Please be kind to one another. And I'll see you again on the next one. Cheers.